From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day.
I'm Michael Feinstein, and I'm here in the music division of the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress is our national library. It is a library that belongs to the people of the United States. It is an extraordinary institution, and inside of this extraordinary institution are many different divisions that are devoted to different aspects of culture. The music division, I have to say, is my personal favorite division of the Library of Congress because it preserves music that is important to world history and world culture. One of the great parts of the music division's library is the collection of music that is what is now referred to as the Great American Songbook. This is roughly a body of music that was written from the 20s through the 1960s by songwriters that wrote for Broadway and Hollywood and Tin Pan Alley, popular songs that have endured. And the library has literally hundreds and hundreds of collections of the papers and works of these great songwriters. There are actually, in the music division of the Library of Congress alone, 22 million items. And you can access these collections by coming to visit in person, seeing the exhibits, doing research, and you can also access the Library of Congress and the music division online, and you can find hundreds of thousands of images and papers that are available for all of us to enjoy and to research. There are many possible collections we could delve into here in the music division of the Library of Congress. There's Lerner and Loewe, there's Gershwin, there's Jerome Kern. But today, I'd like to focus on two collections, Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein. Collectively, Rodgers and Hammerstein created 9 iconic Broadway musicals, 1 film and 1 television special, that created a different kind of musical theater and musical America. Rodgers and Hammerstein were so prolific and so important to our American musical history that it is said that there is not a day that goes by where somewhere a Rodgers and Hammerstein show isn't being produced. It's just amazing what these two men were able to give to all of us because culturally they captured the pulse of what was happening in the world at the time. And they changed the face of how musical theater was perceived, and that it wasn't something that was always light and frothy. It was always entertaining, but they were able to put into their shows subjects that weren't necessarily things that people were comfortable touching on, except they were able to access all of these different experiences of the human condition in a way that made it safe for people to look at things like racial prejudice and the differences that we all had and bring people together in the process. That is what great music and lyrics can do. And Rodgers and Hammerstein were certainly among the greatest. That's why we refer to the years of their collaboration from 1943 to 1959 as the Rodgers and Hammerstein era. So let's get to it.
We've pulled for you a dozen or so of the things from our Rodgers and Hammerstein collections out of the hundreds of materials they are, and some of what we think are the most interesting things or revealing things, and I think you agree.
Yes, it's a cornucopia, of
yes.
great American musical history.
And we wanted to start with probably the show that started Rodgers and Hammerstein on their collaboration, which is Oklahoma. And I think this is something that you were particularly fascinated by, so I'm going to let you sort of tell the story and share it. So without further ado.
With pleasure. These are manuscripts from the first important collaboration of Rodgers and Hammerstein, Oklahoma, which was originally called Away We Go. Oklahoma was an unusual show in its time because in that period, up until Oklahoma, shows started with a chorus of people singing songs that would get the audience settled. It was a certain convention of Broadway at that time that was always expected to be part of a musical show. Now, Rodgers and Hammerstein suddenly write a show that is completely different in every single way, so much so that the critics out of town thought that the show would not succeed. And the first song that's heard in Oklahoma is what is now a famous and iconic song called Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. And it's the first song in the show, as the curtain opens, you see an old woman sitting on stage alone, churning butter. And then this piece of music is heard off stage. The character Curly is singing it, and he slowly comes on stage and sings, "There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky." Now, those lyrics perhaps don't sound very imposing just as I recite them, but when coupled with the music of Richard Rodgers, it truly was a shot that was fired that changed musical theater history. Now, I'm going to play a little bit of this for you so you can hear exactly what I'm speaking about. Now, if you know "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning," you know that the melody goes like this. It's iconic. It's almost like a folk tune. It seems like it was always around, but it was created by Richard Rodgers for Oklahoma. But the thing that's interesting is that this manuscript, which is his original sketch for the idea of the song, has some erasures on it. In other words, there's the very famous melody as we know it. But if you look very carefully on this piece of paper, there are some other notes. It takes a magnifying glass to really get exactly what is there, but it reveals his original melody for this amazing tune. And he clearly decided that what he originally came up with wasn't quite right. And this is what he originally created. It's okay. Oh, what a beautiful morning. But he later made changes of a few notes that made this go from average to sublime. He took the first bar and made it instead of, and then he went up the scale, so it created this tension. Instead of being, there's that high B flat, he went from a low B, ba, 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 turns the second bar upside down, so it goes up, ba, da, da, dee, dee. Oh, what a beautiful morning. So he goes from that low B to a B flat that creates this ascension that perfectly fits the lyric. So here's how the song ended up, the way that we all know it.
Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.